Yeah, so I'm Marta. I work at ClickHouse as a technical PM for ClickPipes, which is our managed ingestion platform. And at this point, I spent half of my career moving data around as an engineer, and another half building tools for engineers to move data around, like ClickPipes, which is what I work on now. And so I use this talk, or I submitted this talk as a bit of like a forcing function to kind of like look into something that is not an entirely new problem in moving data around, but something that is a new problem to me in this space. And that is moving data out of data lake and into an analytical store like ClickHouse so that you can run analytics on it faster. And this might be counterintuitive because a lot of times, when people talk about data lake ingestion, it's more about ingesting data into a data lake or kind of like querying a data lake remotely, not really getting data out of a data lake into some other system. But this is what we're talking about today. And the idea is that you manage to incrementally ship data to like some analytical store. And because you're only shipping a diff, you're doing like change data capture, and then like you're processing less data, and you can more performantly do things like data-driven applications or real-time analytics on top of data that is stored in your probably massive data lake. So the first time I heard about the concept of doing CDC out of a data lake, I was pretty confused. So this was like my original idea of what a data lake is. It's built for scale, not really for speed. And it's where you keep kind of like your cold data for historical analysis, where you make data available to everyone in your company to enjoy at their own leisure. And if you want to build things like data-driven products or do real-time analytics on top of like this massive data store, my brain defaults to, why wouldn't you just go directly to your data source and just ingest that into an analytical store, or increase the frequency of your batch pipelines, stitch together some streaming architecture that can do things in real time, or really just use the capabilities that most analytical databases have today, like ClickHouse or Snowflake BigQuery. Everyone can read efficiently and remotely from a data lake, so why wouldn't you just do that? And all of these options sound cheaper and simpler than getting data out of your data lake into somewhere else. So why would you put the data lake in the middle at all, right? And I used databases in production, but I never built a data lake in production. So this wasn't really clicking for me. But then I talked to a lot of our customers, and it started making sense because there are this is the common 4 patterns that I see when I talk to customers that tell me that they need this. And that kind of like slowly convinced me that this is a real problem that my team should solve. And where, really doing CDC out of your data lake is kind of like the only viable path, or like this is really what they need. So first, these are customers that standardize on a lake first architecture. All the raw data that comes in through any source in their company lands in a data lake by default. And so this is their source of truth. This is their Postgres, or like their equivalent to, this is where all our data is stored. This is where people should consume data from. And every downstream system in the company consumes data from that central repository. And somehow, relatedly, a lot of times the data lake is the contract between teams. So the team that is producing data wants to have full control over what you're able to consume, in what shape you can consume it, and how this data is governed. And then as a consuming team, you never have access to the actual source of the data in the raw form of the data. And so the data lake becomes the interface between the different teams in your company. Third use case is multi-cloud, which is becoming more and more common. And the data lake is kind of like the interop layer between your operational and your analytical systems, which might and sometimes often live in different clouds. And it's expensive to fully replicate things cross-cloud, cross-region. And so just doing incremental syncs from a lake into wherever you need your data is kind of like the easy and cheap option. And lastly, there's also like the cases where batch just isn't fast enough. And you just need to reduce the amount of data that you have to analyze so that you can run queries faster. And so this is kind of like the classic, also how you see like OLTP CDC, where like you want to consume data or changes as they come in. You don't want to go to Postgres all the time and like run queries on all the data and kind of like do the push down and do all of that every time you need to run analytics. And in all cases, the ask from customers is the same. So you get the changes out of the lake, you ship them to a system, to an analytical database, and then you're able to run sub-second queries on top of that. And so the use cases are definitely real. Some of our customers are enrolling their own scripts for doing this diffing today. And so how do we actually build something that makes it easy and accessible for any customer to consume this change feed from data lake format? And how do you even, are there even, what even are the primitives to do this capture? Like, I didn't know that, and that's why this talk exists, because now I do. And so I'm going to focus on Delta Lake and Iceberg because these are the most commonly used formats. There's of course like Hootie, which actually has like really good primitives for this way earlier than Iceberg and Delta. So both formats expose change information. Obviously, they both do it in completely different ways. So Delta precomputes the changes, writes them to a separate folder. So like as a consumer of these changes, you just read metadata, that's all you do. And Iceberg takes a completely different approach. So there are no separate data files. The change metadata lives in the actual data, in the actual rows as like metadata columns. And so changes in Delta are easier to consume, and in Iceberg, they're just cheaper to store. So there's trade-offs to both. Thinking about like building either is not fun. But Delta is definitely like, feels a little less intimidating, at least to start with. So this is kind of like how it looks like if you put it as like a SQL thing. So with Delta, you really just enable a property on a table. And then on the consumer side, you just use a function that they provide, and you kind of like get the rows back for in between the versions that you specified. Of course, as a consumer, the tricky part is also, and this is what you don't want users to have to orchestrate, is what versions have you already consumed? Like if something fails, how do you resume to the version that you haven't ingested yet? So, but the TLDR for Delta is that you never have to touch the data files to find out what has changed. And that's why I like the idea of building a Delta Lake CDC connector first, because it's somewhat straightforward, even though you have to do all this orchestration that we already do in ClickHouse anyways. And on the Iceberg side, like I said before, it takes a different approach. So like it's not a purely metadata kind of like lookup. You have to like filter forward from a checkpoint. You have a sequence number associated with a row. And in like in V3 for Iceberg is kind of like when it became a little more doable to think about building something for Iceberg. I think for Iceberg in particular, like I don't think customers are even able to do this manually today because it's way more complicated and way heavier. And so the change information is embedded in the rows, not materialized separately like in Delta. And I think one thing that is interesting about Iceberg in particular is that the spec has been changing a lot to accommodate kind of like the change in workloads that now are using Iceberg. If you see like Iceberg was originally made for immutable batch data, but it's now used a lot for, very high throughput inserts, mutable data like CDC. And so making CDC easier on Iceberg has been like a big topic for the new versions. And like I mentioned, like with V3, it already feels possible to build something. It's not like going to be a walk in the park, but the primitives are there, and you can do something with it. But there's a lot of interesting discussions already going on for Iceberg v4, and the most promising proposal for CDC is this new idea of having a root manifest. So instead of like walking in V3, what you have to do is you have to walk the tree of like all of the manifest metadata that you have to kind of find what changed. And with a root manifest, what you'll be able to do is just kind of diff between 2 pointers. And so polling gets much cheaper because you don't have to traverse like the whole metadata tree. And yeah, like I said, for us in particular, we're going to start with Delta just because the primitives are much simpler to reason about and cheaper to reason about too. But yeah, so what's missing? This is, I'm definitely not an expert in data lake formats, but I have been building OLTP CDC for some years now. And so my brain, when I was like putting this talk together, my brain went back to, from what we learned from doing CDC out of Postgres, MySQL, MongoDB, what isn't there yet for data lake CDC? And so the first thing that is very obvious that doesn't exist today is global ordering. So like the primitives that I talked about before are all at the table level. So there's no way to track changes across multiple tables. And if you think of something like rows that are changing across tables, like in a single transaction, today you don't have a way to know that the changes to multiple different tables are related in any way. So they're not on the same timeline. There's no ordering. You don't know. You can't really relate what is changing. And the second thing is durable retention. So a guarantee that if something fails, you can resume from where you left off. Of course, that's like partly on the consumer to figure out. But the tricky thing is that on the producer side, they have to guarantee that the change metadata is still there waiting for you. So if you think about MySQL CDC, for example, it's very common where a customer has like a very short bin log retention interval. And so like if something fails for longer than the retention interval, when you want to restart ingestion, the bin log is no longer there. And so you need to do like a full resync. And the third thing is just having a standard consumption interface. This is where, products like ClickPipes can help, or like Debezium, where users don't have to build them and roll this out themselves. We build the abstraction, and then regardless of, if you're using Delta or if you're using Iceberg, you have the same interface, and we don't bleed the implementation details. Like you should not know the slides that I showed before, like you shouldn't even need to know how change tracking works for data lake formats. You should just see the data you want in your database. And yeah, so the 3 gaps that I described, ordering, retention, and having a standard interface, I think map almost exactly, or at least in my head, where I see these things being solved is at the catalog level. I haven't seen a lot of discussions around this, but this is at least like my takeaway from what I learned about change tracking in data lakes is that, this global ordering and like these things that are kind of like overarching to all the objects in your data lake probably live at the catalog layer. So are we there yet? Not really, but we're definitely more than halfway there. This time around, looking into it scared me less than the last time I looked into it some months ago. And so the primitives are there. The spec is evolving. You have very smart people invested in making this work. And the consumer layer is the thing that is going to kind of like make this widely usable, because not a lot of people are doing incremental syncs from data lakes to their analytics stores today. And a big part of that is just because of the effort it requires from you as a user to build all the orchestration, to build all the scripts, to make sure everything works when something fails. And that's what we're building at ClickHouse. And if that sounds like something you'd like to work on, we have a bunch of roles open in my team. So that's it. Thank you so much.